You found us. What about this idea?
Gotta listen to this show. Why?
Because it's about the hearts and minds of entrepreneurs.
Oh, nailed it.
I didn't even look at the wall.
Nailed it.
I didn't even look at the
All
wall.
right, listen, honestly, this is a show. It's different than other shows about entrepreneurship.
It's real. It's real. Real stories.
Is it?
We tend to talk very real.
I love
And
it.
so do our guests. So come have fun with us.
All right, we're back.
Welcome back to the show.
Second half.
Second half.
I'm kind of
Part
excited.
two,
I'm
Katie
always
Jacobs.
excited. I told you it starts off a
The
little.
second half is so much better.
The second half is usually
Right.
better, yes. But
is,
you
yeah.
have been you've been building
I've
up
been
to
building
something.
it. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something that it's building up to, and I don't know what it is. And
Yeah.
usually, I almost always have no real idea what the person does, but I usually have
Okay.
I've heard something. Maybe we talked for a few minutes before the show, or she said something, and I'm like, okay, I kind of know what that person
Yeah.
does. Marketing, for instance, right?
Yeah.
All right, I know I'm talking to a marketing person.
Right.
That's fine.
We
I get
could
this.
do process of elimination. It's not marketing.
No, I get that. That's what's so intriguing to me. It's like,
version of it. Yeah.
there's a business
Yeah.
in there somewhere,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think it's.
Yeah.
Should I throw out some guesses?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah. I think it's around education, right, and kids, and something along the lines of a better world.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ultimately,
that
yeah.
was the worst guess
Pretty
ever.
broad. Pretty broad.
Yeah.
It's in the somewhat in the education space. Yeah. No. I think the long and short of it is I'm building, and I built a marketplace for families of neurodiverse children and their providers to allow them to enable access to services that they need.
Okay.
And so, rewinding just a little bit, because context is really important.
Yeah.
So when I left Best Buy, I ended up leaving Best Buy, and I was given the gift of time to try and figure out what I did next. And I remember getting out, and I was like, I'm gonna go get a job. And my husband was like, stop, don't go get a job. You have time, just be. And I looked at him like he was
that's
literally
nice.
crazy.
Yeah.
No, I looked at him like he was crazy.
Yeah.
I had already gotten out. I had one or two job offers, and he was just like, you're not excited about these, just be.
Yeah.
And sometimes in our life, like in corporate America, they do a really good job of helping you understand, like, if I'm a growth person at my core, okay? But I was able to chameleon my way through where I was a doer, and then I got to be a growth. But a lot of the times when organizations get to a space where they need a doer, they won't tell the growth person that they don't need a growth person.
Okay.
So I chameleoned my way through. And
What do
so
they do?
So they say, go do data analysis, go do project management. And what happens, and the risk is when you do that to any human, and you know this, right, is that the risk is that you get burned out.
Because you're not doing the thing that actually you are sort of at
Exactly.
your core the best
And
at,
it's
or
like what I
whatever.
say to my children. It's like I don't ask them what they want to be. I ask them what their skills and their strengths are. My skills and my strengths are looking at something and figuring out how to bring it to life, right? My skill is like strategic execution. My skill, and it's a good skill, but it's also I've had to learn as I've led teams. Like I am 10 steps ahead, and I have to understand how I understand the audience where I'm at to understand the problem I'm solving in the moment, right?
Sure. So if you're 10 steps ahead and you've got a team that's working on it with you,
It doesn't work.
that's very difficult.
It's very difficult, and I learned
slow
through
yourself
that,
down
right?
a little bit.
And I
to
learned
get
through
to
that.
work.
And so when I
Yeah.
left, I had to unravel that. And so that's when my husband was just like, just be. And my neighbor at the time, she had to come over. She's in the medical industry, a very successful physician and our surgeon. And she came over and she was dressed in what I thought she was going to go play tennis. And she's like, I'm playing pickleball. And I looked at her like she was crazy. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, how do you have time to play pickleball? Like, you have such a busy schedule. And then she left, and I said to my husband, I need to get some damn hobbies. Literally,
Did
I'm
you,
like,
I'm assuming that you went and picked
Right.
up pickleball the next day.
I did. She's now like, she's really, really good. But I think from my perspective, like, it was just this notion of, I kind of lost who I was, honestly.
Sure.
I was very present with my children. I had 3 children in corporate America,
And you drove by somewhere by Best Buy and they were playing volleyball.
At Best
and that
Buy.
excited you.
At Best Buy. They had
Yeah.
volleyball courts at Best Buy where people
Yes.
who worked there played there. And I was
And
like,
then as you got further into it, you got further away from the idea of playing volleyball with anybody at work,
totally. I don't
right?
think I ever played volleyball there, but it was just this,
Right.
this thought of like, wow, that's so cool. And so when my husband said, just be, it was like allowing me time to unravel. Simultaneously, the pandemic had hit, and so 2
that
things
thing.
happened, right? My dad had since passed, and my mom was diagnosed with Parkinson's about, 6 years prior. And it was moving in a space that was a lot. And simultaneously, I was now forced, 5 months prior to leaving Best Buy, to sit with my oldest son, who was 6 at the time, and actually sit with him and understand how he learned.
Oh.
Because we in corporate America are never home to understand
To
how
do
the
homework.
child is learning.
Yeah.
I had a
And
moment
so-
of this in
Did
my,
you?
well, yeah, I've got kids, so I had a moment. I'm curious to hear what happened to you.
Well, I sat there and I remember seeing just how Oliver was holding his book so close to his face. I remember seeing just how he was really struggling holding his pencil. And I remember being, my mom, who was still alive, my mom was an elementary school teacher in St. Paul Public School.
Okay.
And she was like, go get his eyes checked. And I did, and getting an appointment during the pandemic was a nightmare, right?
Of course.
But we learned very quickly that he was nearly blind in his left eye.
Okay.
And we got him glasses, and he was able to see, but simultaneously, it was that day when he was sitting on the front porch, it wasn't the learning that I observed most, it was how he spoke to himself. And Oliver, at age 7, just kept saying, I'm just a dumb boy.
Oh, you're breaking my heart.
Yep.
You're absolutely. I'll literally start crying here
Yep.
now because of this.
And it
so.
did, and
But yeah.
it shook me, okay,
Yep.
as his mom,
No, you're
because
not, buddy.
that's not how my husband and I obviously speak in our home, but it was how the environment he was in made him feel,
Yeah.
okay? And so I still look at the pandemic as such a gift,
Right.
because it gave me a perspective of really being, using my husband's language, like being in the moment with my son.
Yeah, which
And
I mean, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's got to be the most important parts of our lives, really. I mean,
It is.
all
But
of the
it's
rest of it,
amazing,
but you had to
Sam.
take a little time to
But
sit
it's
there.
amazing in corporate America. Like I was guilty of not allowing myself to be
to just be there
like
with
that.
your boy.
Because the system didn't allow me to work with him at home like that.
Right.
I was literally forced to
Now,
work with him.
I'm back to
And
hating
then-
corporate America mostly. I am. No, that's just. I mean,
I want to work there. No,
Yeah.
I don't.
no.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
I think you have to balance everything, obviously, and you can't constantly be everything for your children. But if your job disallows you the opportunity to at least sit and recognize that your son thinks that he's a dumb boy because
Yeah.
he doesn't understand things
Yeah.
or deals with things differently than the other kids, like that is
Yeah.
that just so if you're out there in corporate America, honestly, that is not that's a toxic work thing.
Yes.
You cannot do that to people.
Yeah, and
It's-
at the time, like I was personally going through a lot just in terms of understanding the bias. And so, so fast forward, we got
Yeah.
Oliver what is referred to as a neuropsych assessment.
Okay.
To get him an assessment in his system, because he was in a public system at the time, it was going to take months. And then I was really worried about just.
Was he distanced learning at that point
Yep.
too? Yeah. Oh,
And
those
so
were
I was
tough
so
days.
grateful.
How old is he now?
He was 6.5 about.
At that point?
Yep. And
Because I have an 8-year-old.
oh,
And
you
it's-
do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have 2 boys. They're in high school, 17 and 15, but an 8-year-old. So I kind of know.
Yep.
We're in the close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oliver he's 11 now. so,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think he must have been 7 at the time, but I just remember being very much like, it stung me, and it
course.
really also, I didn't feel comfortable. Honestly, I didn't share with my work what was going on because it was just such a different setting. And the reality of it is when I had the opportunity to leave, it was almost like a gift, right?
Yeah.
And, sometimes in life when you come up for air, it's like you can kind of look to see like, oh, your kid's learning differently than what's a typical learner.
Sure.
My mom, ended up passing away 5 months later, right?
So you got to spend some time with
yep,
her.
exactly.
fortunately.
And so we had built a home for my mom above our garage because we never wanted my mom to go into assisted living.
Right. Right.
and she fell. And so I was very familiar with like a Parkinson's, which is much of a physical disease as it is, like it has a physical impact as it is cognitive.
MS and Parkinson's, are there
No,
similarities?
Similar but different, right? The way that affected my mom was she had fallen, and the reality was it exacerbated her cognitive challenges.
Sure.
And she had a form of Parkinson's called Lewy body Parkinson's.
Okay.
And so there was a form of dementia associated with, so she would go in and out of clarity and then, but realize she's out of it when she's out of it, right? And so it was like,
She could realize she was out of it
yes,
when she was out
it's
of
like
it?
Robin, so the famous individual, Robin Williams had it, right?
Okay.
And so it was really, and my mom was an incredible teacher.
Yeah.
And always present. And that was
So it
hard.
was that loss
Yeah.
of the core of who she is.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the home that we had built for my mom, I had gotten to a point where now I was out of just this robotville of just trying to navigate so much. And
Oh, I'm so happy
I
for you
realized,
at this point.
Yes, I realized though, like the level of care that my mom needed, I couldn't give. I couldn't be present for my boys, my husband, and so
Even being out of work.
no, it was
Yeah.
just too much,
It's-
and
yeah.
it was different than how I was raised, and so it's important to understand because I was raised where caregiving was exactly what we did.
Yep.
Right, I paused in 22 just to help, and I didn't think anything of it. So
I'm
it was
sure
a
you
big,
know this now, but caregiving beyond your means is not actually caregiving.
I knew it then.
You knew it then.
Yep,
Okay,
yep,
so you
and-
recognized
Yep.
you were going to be beyond your ability to
Yep.
provide the care that this person needed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so, fast forward, so I got about a year to try and unravel kind of what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't, want to go back to corporate America. I was like, I think I'm done.
No, it
and
doesn't
so
sound like it.
one
Yeah.
of the job offers I had was a big consulting firm, and I was like, I can't do that. And then I knew I liked to solve problems, connect dots, and grow businesses, but I didn't necessarily want to do. I didn't want to do that in a formal setting where I was like a W-2, so I started
I've got
consulting.
a couple of challenges for you, but anyway.
I know,
Please,
right?
Did you hear what she just
I
said?
know,
Well,
right?
no,
I mean,
I'm
depends on
taking
the
notes.
area of focus, right?
But you like to do that.
Yeah,
Julie.
exactly. I do now for my own work, but so I got to dabble in helping to do like some product acceleration work where did some work where I got to bring products to life, and then decided that I was ready to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And so what is Cake? So Keikens, the name of my business, it's actually a Japanese word. Okay.
Of course,
Okay.
it's a Japanese word.
So-
That's why it's confusing. I got
Yes,
it. Okay, so what is it?
It's a Japanese, so experience in Japanese is Keiken. And
Keiken?
I added an S to Japanglish it, and so it's Keikens.
Sure.
And so for me, you simultaneously, like experiences shape us. They help us understand purpose, perspective, right? And understand just so much. And Oliver's neuropsychologist, when he did a second neuropsych, so Oliver is dyslexic, which affects
Okay.
his reading.
Yeah.
He's dysgraphic, which affects his writing.
Okay.
He's dyspraxic, which affects his processing. And he's also auditory processing disorder. So he hears things faster than he can process it sometimes.
Okay.
Okay.
You realize you're a very fast speaker and a very fast thinker. Yes, you really are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's probably one of the gifts that you've had. Like
Yeah.
some of these things that they're like, oh, your kid has this. Like
Yeah.
they actually become the things that are some of their superpowers
Yeah.
as they get older. But anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it was, for me, when Oliver was, diagnosed with all of that, like I had a lot of my own biases to unravel around difference.
Yeah, right.
And it was, 4 years ago, there's no way I could be sitting in a podcast or doing a business that I'm doing now.
Okay.
Because I had some unraveling to do about me and understanding difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
and part of the reason why you go into a corporate setting like that and you do your thing and you're 10 steps ahead, right?
Yeah.
And it all feels comfortable for you and maybe
Yep,
someone else like you
predictable.
and I might have been in there and been like, fuck
Yeah.
these people. I got a party to
Right,
go to this
right.
weekend. They want me to be here.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
But part of the reason is you whether I'm not
Yeah.
trying to diagnose you because
Yeah.
that's not who I am.
Go for it.
But no,
Okay.
but you probably,
Yeah.
we carry, getting a diagnosis is really just sort of here's what the thing is.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't know, it's not always telling you this is what's wrong with you. It's telling you what is with you. That's
exactly.
all.
And so I think it was for me though, I grew up in a time, and I bet we all did, generationally, where labels were not a good thing.
Oh, and anything out of the ordinary was a weapon.
Exactly.
Well, and it was all under the big R word, right?
Yep.
And it was like
The big what?
R.
Which one's that?
Okay, well, just let you catch up.
Oh, you mean like
There's
like
just derogatory terms.
I can say that I have a younger brother with Down syndrome, and honestly, I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
When in I want to say 87, 88, I believe he was born. It was the tail end of like when he was born. They kind of told my mom like, well, you know, if you don't want to take this one home, you don't have to. Like, we'll institutionalize this one for you. You know. I mean, honestly, we're not that far removed from any of this. And when we were kids, anything that could be picked upon, we're like when the chickens in a chicken coop, when they see the one and they start picking at its head,
There's
and then
weakness.
they like just go. Everyone's like, oh fuck that, we're gonna do it too.
Exactly.
Pick on it, and then that one
that poor
dies.
chicken.
Like they just, you know,
Exactly.
whether that was being gay, whether that was having dyslexia or.
Yeah, well, you're just different.
An
So
eye
it's different.
patch, whatever it was,
Yep.
any single thing that became a thing.
It became a thing, and I think it was Oliver's neuropsychologist. So when children go through an assessment, children, it is we chose to go the private route because the system to get him through it was going to take a long time.
The resources aren't.
And so
great
we had
there.
already ramped up tutoring. We had already ramped up just like we'd switched schools for him because the school he was in wasn't going to recognize him nor I think support him the way that we needed. So we were always already maneuvering just through different options. But we got him to the second school and he had to have another neuropsych, and it was his clinical psychologist who said something to me. And sometimes in life you just don't know the people you meet and just the impact they're going to have on you, right?
Yeah,
and,
totally.
This individual, I really appreciated her communication style because she was just matter of fact. And I just really appreciate it.
It worked for you.
It did.
Yeah.
It worked because I believe being honest is a form of kindness.
It can be, yes.
And it's different in Minnesota sometimes, right?
What do you mean?
Yes. What do you mean?
That's interesting.
Right? Exactly. Right. And so after she did this 7-hour exam on Oliver, right, where it gave him everything from his IQ all the way to just things that you and I, like in our lifetime, we'll never know about our brains. It's an incredible assessment. And she's very good at what she does. And she sat down with me and she goes, Katie, she goes, reading and writing is never, she said it just like that, never going to be easy for Oliver. And now maybe if she listens to this, she'll be like, I didn't say it like that. That's how I heard it.
Fair enough.
That's
fair
how I
that you
heard
can
it.
recognize the difference between someone's intent and what you heard.
And
and
so
all that,
I learned over this last couple of years of unraveling, of staying with people, right? And I just, and I stayed with her, and she said to me something that she knows birthed this business. And she said, Katie, reading and writing is never going to be easy for Oliver. The most important thing you can do for him is give him access to experiences to help him understand his skills and his strengths.
Okay. So I have to ask though. So as a mother, the never going to be like, was that initially off-putting? Like you took that as as sort of a, don't say that about my kid. He will do these things. Or,
I think it's the mindset of neurodiversity. The definition I like to give is it's a brain that functions different than what's considered typical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's a spectrum for a reason, right? So there's learning disabilities, right? There's the autism spectrum disorder. There's mental health is a component of that, fetal alcohol syndrome, chromosomal Down
syndrome. I need
syndrome.
a mind map of this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? With all
on
of
my
these
website, you can see that. Yes.
You have that?
Yep.
Oh, well,
Yep.
what a way to get people to your website.
Yeah, there you go.
What's your website?
Yeah, it's not mine. It's Nancy Doyle who drew this incredible
Let's
view
just put this
of it.
all out there. Is not only that's very upper Midwestern and sweet of you. It's not your map, but it is your site
it's not
and
my
it is
map.
your work.
Because part of this business, though, is in strategy is understanding what you are and what you aren't. And I am not a clinical psychologist. I'm not a pediatrician.
Sure.
I'm not an educator, right? I'm not a psychiatrist, right? I am a mom to a neurodiverse child. And I have experienced firsthand the challenges that I've faced in feeling like I couldn't navigate the system. 50% of families struggle with navigating the system, right?
The healthcare
Over
system
80%
similarly.
of families are really struggle, just frustrated in general and just feeling deflated and not wanting to share that their child's different.
Totally.
Right? The
Stigma.
systems are also really struggling with understanding just how they can, I think it's 60% of pediatricians have a hard time recommending services outside of their area of focus, right? And then educators really struggle with reading and understanding the summary of the system, right? And so I think there's so much that goes into this. And so my background in solving problems, connecting dots, and growing businesses, and what Dr. Klein said that day, the individual doctor that diagnosed Oliver the second time, is she reinforced that I often hear like kids with neurodiverse elements have superpowers, and I look at that like Oliver is super special, but he also has a heightened sense of awareness. He sat on a front porch feeling at the age of 6 and 7 feeling like a dumb boy, right? And so his superpowers are my responsibility too, to help him find his skills and his strengths.
Totally.
And I was really struggling. So I was struggling trying to find the clinical services that supported him, and then the non-clinical services, like finding tutoring, finding occupational therapy, right? And trying to figure out how families map it all together. And I just was overwhelmed.
I'm not
Yes.
in taking nothing away from Oliver's experience. You can sit just about any 6-year-old down and they might say the same thing.
Yeah.
And there might be a million different reasons for it. And they might fall in the map over here, they might fall here. It might be just something someone said to them. Like there's, whether it's a superpower you're looking for or it's a thing that you think differentiates them and makes them different and bad in some way, however you want to frame it, not you personally, but just the global you.
Yeah.
We are not all the same. That is just the way it works. And the things that make us unique are the things that that also give us some of those same problems. So like a kid without the same neurodivergent problems or something might still sit there and think that because someone said something bad to them that day, they may think they're
the
dumb.
difference, Sam, for me was I know my son.
That's right.
And I knew when he said that was not just a bad day at school.
No.
Okay?
That was a
And
firm
so
belief.
For me,
was a deeply embedded
what I
belief.
believe is our systems are set up in there. So I used to say the systems, like the healthcare system, education is broken, and I've stopped saying that.
Yeah.
Because someone I met with, a month ago, she runs this incredible nonprofit. She said, Katie, the systems aren't broken. The systems are actually designed as they should. They're operating exactly as they should.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're operating to operate the health side and the education side. And what I came to believe is a three-legged stool. And so throughout the last 3-4 years of navigating with all of our services and support and advocating for him and how he thought of himself, because that's actually what I cared most about, was, one leg of the stool is the systems, the healthcare and the education system. One is the family, right? And one is the child. And at any given point, one of those legs is off kilter, it's the child that faces significant challenges.
Yeah.
Right? Okay?
Yeah.
And so what I came to understand was there's a gap in supporting the families in navigating the systems.
Yeah.
And the families are really struggling. Families of this generation, generally speaking, are masked. So I say, think of a COVID mask, right? As I said, there's no way 4 years ago I could have sat here and shared this with you.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Right.
And I've gone through my own unmasking process in understanding that my story, is my story. And by sharing my story, it helps understand a little bit more. Now, the reality is Oliver was here. He would tell you today he's dyslexic, he's dysgraphic, he's dyspraxic, and he always forgets the last one, right?
Yeah, I have a little
Right?
sister she's 11 and she's
Yes.
dyslexic and she can talk about it. too,
Yes,
so,
and so I think that's the different in
That's
generation.
a huge difference.
You couldn't talk
generation.
about that stuff when we were young. No.
Well, they
I
didn't
know
have
our
information.
listeners
Yeah.
and me,
Yeah.
and you should be.
Oh.
What does your business do?
Oh my goodness! Oh, no, I really would. I could go on about this
Right,
all
right,
day. I
yes.
love it.
I mean,
There's so much I want to know.
I know, but it's so good.
So Keikens is a marketplace for families of neurodiverse children and their providers who serve them. And so it's a place for families to go to find not just resources. Families are sick of reading another document about like what is, dyslexia or what is autism and families need action. And so the providers that are out there are so incredible in terms of providing these services. I always say they're incredible scientists, but they're not marketers.
We talk about this with our marketing people that come in.
Oh, yeah?
Marketers, I always give them a hard time because they'll write you the plan, right? But then who does it? And that's what you're doing is finding the doers.
And so what we've built and we've piloted is an ability for families to find, book, and manage experiences easily, one. And then we're launching later this year in Minneapolis, St. Paul, just a marketplace for families and providers to share their services, but also book. And so it's one thing to go and say, here's where it is. It's another thing to actually book. That will take time because change is required to do that. But I have a team of developers who are incredible. And they have helped to build this experience. So remember, my job when I was at big corporate America was to be the quarterback. Right? And so I got to do a little bit of product development, a little bit of market sizing, a little bit of sales, like all of that fun stuff. And for me, strategy is defining what you are and what you aren't. And so especially with hiring, you hire people for what you are not. When you have people who are like you, it's a dead end.
Yes.
Right.
It's a dead end. And so I have 3 developers, I have a designer, I have a law firm, and then I have multiple advisors. And so for me, I also believe you don't build it and hope they come. And so my job is to say, let me figure out what the problems you're solving, providers. Let me build it, and then see how other providers like you have a similar, and then we onboard. And so that's the model that we're going through right now. And so
where are you at in all of this?
Yeah, so we're in a pilot stage right now, and so we have. If you go to our website, it's more marketing driven, and just saying,
How do you spell it?
It's Keikens, Keikens.
Wait, no, because you're very fast.
Okay, Keikens.
Okay.
And it is, it's experiences in Japanese with an S. And it is a place for families to go to find, book, manage services that that they need, right? And it's also a place for providers to list and get the analytics that they need to run their business, so it allows them to do more.
I was going to say, not only are you building a business, but you're probably building all the providers' businesses as well, because
isn't that wonderful?
They haven't been found.
They have been found, but I think they're operating in a way where they know best, right? And so I think it's a matter of trying to figure out how you help support the problems that they have, the providers have, with the problems that the families have, right? And so it's a bit of a chicken, like my marketplace doesn't exist without the providers.
Right.
Because I'm not here to create a community of talking,
right?
But also for me, like I have done through that process in the last 3 years, like I realized like is my problem the same as everybody else's? And so throughout like my experience in corporate America and doing some other startups and what I just learned how much like egos can really truly do screw a lot of things up. And it's really important you stay close to the audience that you're serving. And so I've now met with 117 families of neurodiverse children, about 50 providers, right? To understand the problems that they're solving and understand like it's my job to create a solution to those problems. And so staying close to them is the most important thing, and not building something hoping they're coming, building something they're going to use, and building something that they see a ton of value in, right? And so that's where I'm at is in a pilot stage right now. And I think we're opening up for fundraising in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
And I've it's been so fascinating, this whole process of just understanding. And my husband and I bootstrapped the whole thing right now.
Do you mind if I mean, this is a show about entrepreneurship. So do you mind if I ask questions about like how much are you looking to fundraise?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we have around about 750,000.
Is what you're looking for?
Yep, and about over half of it is going to product development. The remaining is going into just marketing and legal fees, and then just some labor.
Yeah.
So and hiring fractional leaders specific in the
How
IT
exciting.
space. Yeah.
To go into raising money.
Yeah, it's humbling. It's so humbling.
She and I have been talking for, actually when we first started talking, she was looking for a real job.
Yes.
And now she's got a real job.
I don't know. I've been through this before. I think a lot of people's real jobs aren't necessarily very easy.
I'm super excited about this because I think I think the care and the intention that you have put into this business will really resonate across all kinds of ways to get services. I have a couple other people that we're talking even deeper, and you're at this stage that I want to make a connection with, because I think there should be some crossover.
Yeah.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
How are you different?
How am I different?
How are you different?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
you mean her personally, or you mean
I've known her for a
Yeah.
year. I know her since she left Best Buy and decided she wanted a real job, and now I've talked to her a few
about putting you on the
times
spot.
after. You can I tell you what I think?
Go for it.
You seem
That might help. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
just being around you now, and this is going to make me cry. It feels really zen.
Oh.
I mean, you have easily crossed through something.
Yeah.
And it's,
Juliet, I have.
It's super impressive.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for recognizing that. I mean,
the crying
show. But it is. But it is. I mean, I think for me, I think this is. I believe we all have a lot of work to do in how we clear our heads. Mm-hmm. Right. And I believe our history can shape us, but it doesn't have to direct us.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair enough.
And I believe we have to understand what we are and what we aren't. When we know what we're not, you go ask for help. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think for me, I believe this business is incredibly personal, right? But it's also manifesting a lot of these incredible experiences I got to be paid to fail, right? And then solving a problem that is so real. The problem that we are solving, okay, just to put it in perspective, there's an individual out of LA who's just phenomenal, and he used this analogy, and I appreciate it, because he said you can be a gazillionaire with a child who's neurodiverse, and you can throw money at it and try and think you can solve it. And transparently, I did. My husband and I did. We moved into schools, and now he's finally at a new school that is still, very specialized, but you can be a gazillionaire and think you can throw money at this and solve it. And you can be, not a gazillionaire and on food stamps and still have these same problems.
End result.
The system, so what I believe Keikens is its ability for us to enable an alternate access point for the systems, for the families. I believe families, I believe we are versions of experts. Families are with our children at least 18 years and beyond. And we have moments that we know when Oliver's sitting on the couch and he's telling me that.
Yeah.
That's not just a bad day, okay?
Right.
And I believe that our government needs to do right by the families and subsidize us in a way that supports us the option to choose. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I remember meeting with someone in healthcare, and I remember meeting someone, and they're like, "What are you trying to do? Are you, why are you doing what you're doing? Are you trying to replace us?" And I go, whoa.
No.
Mm-hmm. I go, I am not trying to replace you. I said, I'm trying to create an alternate path. And for me, how I'm different too, in corporate America, it was about flag planting. It's about who can get there first. Go launch us in 90 days, and if it doesn't work, move on, right? And that is exactly how corporate, in this space of neurodiversity, it is. It is the gazillionaire has the same problems as the person who's on food stamps, right? Literally. And I think there's an opportunity for us to figure out how collectively we can solve this differently, because it's going to take not flag planters. This is not about flag planters. This is about creating more of a coalition. I'm a for-profit organization. People ask me, are you I'm a for-profit organization with, really, I love meeting with players in this space, because it's going to take many of us. If this would have been, this whole element of neurodiversity is not new, right? It's becoming more and more aware for many, but I think the reality of it is if it was easy, it would have already been solved, and it's not. And so how am I different? I'm not a flag planter in this space. I feel like I'm operating, and I love meeting with these incredible scientists because they are so special. Oliver's tutor, like who he saw for 2 days a week for 2-3 years, literally. Like she's part of our family, and she like special humans. Oliver's teachers now at his school, like his occupational therapist, right? I mean, really special humans. And so I think for me, I feel really lucky because I get to meet with these scientists, and then I get to blend with my background of business. And I can help bridge that gap. So I do believe there is a hope for an alternate path. I do believe that I am going to need support outside of the muscles that I have because it's so complex. And I am not a doctor. I'm not a clinical psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a social worker. I'm not an educator. I'm a mom.
Yep.
And you're a corporate person
Yes.
that learned something in that that maybe this has not had before.
Potentially,
Yeah,
right? But
and
I
it's
feel
like
like
a
I had
different
the
perspective.
time. Like
Right.
I'm different because I had my partner say to me, "Be,"
Yeah.
and he like literally I had time to unravel a lot of that stuff. And I think, it takes time to do that. And so often in corporate America, you don't get the time to do that. Right. And so I feel really lucky. I feel grateful for that darn pandemic. I feel really lucky about just, giving me the time to leave, right? And just get out of that, environment where I was burned out. I was completely burned out, right? And now I'm in a space that, I love it. And I know entrepreneurialism is not something you just wake up one day and you're like, I have this idea. I had an idea 9 years ago that's moved from this and this and this. And right? You talk about, I'm sure all the people, right? But for me, like this is really meaningful. And I believe that, I had a meeting with some people last week that I couldn't believe I was meeting with these people.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think
I can. Whoever they are. Yeah.
I don't care who they are.
No, I don't. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you're advocating for something that you are incredibly passionate about, that matters very, very much to you, that will be, another piece in a very complex world that can help some people. And that is, it's awesome.
It is. And I think it's like taking time to be using your language Zen and just clear your head, because I really believe like if you can find moments and ways that allow you just to clear your head and stop the noise, right? Because there's a lot of noise always.
Always.
And
lots
I
lots
was, reacting to the noise, and if I can stop it, I actually, in my core, I think I can figure it out. Or I have a partner who I can talk with about it, right? And I think, but it takes work to understand that noise and just kind of let it pass.
Yep.
Right?
It's hard because what is noise? What are you supposed to pay attention to? There's an intuitive piece entrepreneurs have to learn, and you learn it. How do you learn it? You have to make a bunch of mistakes.
Yes.
You have to not listen to that little piece of intuition, or you have to block out the noise and look for clarity.
Or not take the advice of someone who's going to give you based on their experiences, right? I had someone early on who gave me that really great insight. And I think being aware of that is just one on the spectrum, and the other is don't waste your energy in their predictable behavior, right? And so it's this constant blend of trying to navigate, because humans, we're just very complex. You add, 1 in 6 children who are neurodiverse, 1 in 5 humans, it's over 350 huge amount of population, right, in the world.
And we have a different, here's my feeling about that. I used to do a lot of work with rural communities. And rural communities, for very good reason, move at a slower pace, right? And that really comes from our history, right? It comes from, also they're working all the time. So you can't just be at fast pace all the time. Then you have a new world that is filled with chaos. I mean, just think about when we grew up.
It's pretty chaotic.
Like my parents wouldn't have driven me to soccer and gymnastics and dance and whatever it is.
You'd have just
like
gone to school and come home.
These parents, they tell me how stacked up they are in the evening, driving their kids from here to there and keeping them occupied. I could have one thing.
Yep.
And that was it. And we are in this mode where we are constantly being bombarded with things we have to do and things that we are doing. And so we have to consciously slow down.
Yes.
And it's more and more and more important now, especially when we are trying to do things like be in a business.
Or AI exists. And,
AI exists,
Right, and all of the ability to do some of that, right? Exactly. And so I think it's just, I'm truly so grateful, like, of having a moment in my life in my mid-40s, early mid-40s, of just realizing, like, what it is I'm doing, I can do. I'm so grateful for what I've learned, but it's not where I want to go. And so then I had to own it.
Yep.
It's the feedback that I got from the individual that one day when I was networking of, I love you, Katie, but I have no idea what the fuck you want to do. Right? And I could have taken one path and been like, that guy's like crazy.
Yeah, right.
But then I looked at it like, oh, he's right, actually. And so I worked and I got my pitch of what I wanted to do down to 15 minutes, then 3 minutes, and that all went to the wayside because I don't want to do that anymore.
That's
and
fine.
Then it went down
That's
to
fine.
zero.
It's all
Right.
working.
That pitch just dissolved.
But I think it's just like we're so quick on pushing off other things that we should actually be owning.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think this space that I'm in, it is, I call it like an octopus. Like I have octopus tentacles out in every single direction. And my job is to hire really good humans. I hire based on value. Okay. One of the individuals I work with in Poland, he himself believes he may be dyslexic, right?
Sure.
And so I think you never know the stories of that you're sharing and how it can impact others and them impacting me, right? Yeah. And so that experience of him sharing that with me, like we have a value connection that's different than just hiring, like, I appreciate showing up on time, right? Type thing.
And we work in a global world now, which is
we do.
different.
And so that's where I value perspective outside of this beautiful bubble that is Minnesota, right? I do. And I think it's just trying to figure through how you navigate some of that and make sure that you stay true to you. And so, I think it's ongoing.
It is ongoing.
Yeah.
But what a great, it's all a flow, right?
Yeah.
Like business ownership is all a flow. There's all of
that's right. This
all
show is
kinds
about
of beginnings.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of starts. There's all kinds of beginnings.
Yeah.
There's all kinds
and
of
there's
starts.
so much humility in the middle. I mean, like I have so many moments of the day where like I will literally like I might be crying or just like literal things that like people don't I don't need someone to see, but it is real stuff that you're working through.
Well,
making
also
decisions.
remember you're going into a perimenopausal stage of your life as well.
I know.
So just add that on, Katie.
Right? I know. I've already my radar's up on that one too. No, I know.
Add that on.
Started taking those cortisols.
Great.
Holy schmoly.
It is, but it's seriously, and so it's just like trying to be really genuine and just honest and hope your team can be that same way and making sure that, the context, I believe, is really important as you're doing some of this stuff. Because even though you may be a developer and you're focused on coding, right? What's incredible that they have incredible strategies.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's allowing that space for those individuals that you're working with. Like the designer that I remember meeting him for the first time and just seeing how his questions and just how he thinks differently. And I really respect that. And so I want to create a space that's not linear. I don't want to create a linear working setting, that it's like this and this and this and this and this. It's more about just like collectively we all have ownership in it. We have values that are aligned and we all agree with that the problem we're solving is really fucking big.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And we want to be part of that solution. And so that's what we're doing.
And with software now, it's like you can take a little bite out of that, right? So it's like if you have a prototype, you can like, okay, this is not going to solve all the problems that we need, but it's going to give us a base.
Correct.
To build all those components.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So no, it's a lot of fun. I'm so appreciative of people like you who do, allow people like me to share stories because that's what you're doing.
Well, that's what we are.
Exactly what this story today is exactly what this show is about. And it's about the human experience in entrepreneurship, because you don't learn anything from these are the steps I took to get here. You learn something from this is where I learned, this is where I got passionate, this is how I'm treating the people around me, this is how I screwed this up, this is how I didn't screw it up. And so thank you for sharing that.
Oh, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. And honestly, if I could ever help you be interviewed, I will absolutely do that.
I know, what a great idea.
Oh boy.
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. No,
do we want to do a big idea? Did anyone bring another big idea?
I mean, I think we can very quickly, if you got time. Yeah.
You got one?
The only idea that keeps coming to me, and it's not really an idea, but I'll make it as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You know, when humans first developed like the telescope, like Galileo, you look out and it's like this flat thing.
Yeah.
And you start to see little bits and pieces of it. And as we've gotten more complex, it's like little parts of it keep filling in. And so we're all looking at the map of what being human is. And it's like, oh, I see a little land over here, or I see a constellation here, or I see a thing. And I think about this with the kids too, and the way they learn. And when you get to a certain point, you think like, okay, I can tell what all of this is. But then when you develop the Webb telescope and stuff, you start to realize like, oh shoot, it's also got dimension this way, and there's layers upon layers, and now we don't know what
string theory.
And so the more it's almost like the more we learn, the more complex everything gets. You know, it used to be. I understand why people are in such chaos sometimes, because it was like we were all looking at the same picture, and now it's like, no, I'm 14 levels up looking at a whole different part of that same picture, because it's multidimensional now. Everything's multidimensional. So I don't know. That's just what kept
What's
coming.
What's the idea?
It just the idea was just it was formulating in my head as we were talking, this idea that we're confused by this multidimensionality of all of it, and that's the only.
You could do a whole podcast about that, because it's just about experiences gives you perspective, right? And it's that Maya Angelou quote, right? We're all on a path to being wise, right? And so I think the more that you can get out of your bubble and you can surround yourself around people that are not going to just pat your back, that might give you feedback and give you different perspectives. That's how I know I grow, right? And give me a perspective to just maybe take the layer. So I'm maybe over here when I was here before, and then look at it down or sideways and say, wow, I understand it differently. And so
look at what's in here.
It's about trying to get experiences. I mean, it truly is about experiences to help you better understand who you are. So
I hear you. I don't have any other ideas.
I do a lot of different experiences. I do a lot of different. So I should be very wise.
We all should be, right? Yeah.
Did you bring an idea?
Well, I think the one idea that we are patent pending. So I didn't share with you. So we have a tool that we're creating for families of neurodiverse children, and we just filed our patent on Monday. And so there's so much chaos that's going on in reports from doctors, report cards from school, and we're creating an aggregate to be able to translate what that information means for families.
Okay.
So families can actually understand what the diagnoses are. They can then translate it to help the child understand in the child's language, because in AI, you can say, speak to me like I'm a second grader, right?
Right.
And then you can say, here's the link about what it means to be, auditory processing. And then allowing the family to share that tool with an educator, so that, for example, like Oliver's, experience in school, some of the educators didn't know what his diagnoses were.
No, of course not.
Right? And so there's so much information. So we're creating a tool that's allowing for aggregation of that data and then translating it in a way that allows people to absorb it differently. And so that's just, I think, part of the plan is to help make it simpler for families. And there is so much complexity, right? With
so
what
much.
that's out there.
And a lot
we're
of
just
teachers,
trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of teachers they're so well-intentioned and they're really good at their job, but they don't necessarily have knowledge of what this thing is.
And the systems aren't set up to allow them time to learn, right?
It's tough.
Right, and so I think it's just trying to figure out how I'm done creating Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to create a bandage. I want to create a solution that really can help drive awareness, can help you have that view from different angles.
And can grow as time goes on,
Exactly.
it sounds like.
And so that's the only idea that I mean, it's live and we're prototyping it. And
Great.
I think I really care a lot about just how, people understand. I mean, I've gone through my own thing of like, I thought I knew what auditory processing was, and it wasn't until the intern this summer explained it to me in a way that I said, now speak to me like I'm a second grader. And she explained it to me like a second grader, and I had tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my God, that thing that Oliver does about saying what or how in the middle of sentences, and I get frustrated with.
Yeah.
That's him.
Yeah.
And so there is so much complexity in all of it.
Tons.
So it's just trying to do what we can with tech to simplify it.
It's as simple as we used to teach math one way and one way only.
Yes.
Now you can teach it 6 different ways. You get to the same outcome, but everyone who was forced to learn it this way looks at these 6 different ways. They're like, why? Why? Because it's that complex. You actually can use these different methods to get to the same answer. And some people, 5% are going to learn this way. 5% are going to learn that way. 25% that way. It's we're that divergent and
all
diverse.
of us learn differently, and so it's just helping to understand it, name it, drive awareness, which will drive curiosity, right? Which will drive perspective.
Awesome.
So yeah.
How about you, Juliet? Any big ideas?
I don't have big ideas
Okay.
No. Okay.
that aren't solved by AI. I think AI's really got a corner in the market.
We should have asked AI.
Exactly. You could. Yes.
Well, lowly humans, here are the biggest ideas that I
Exactly.
came up with.
I can't think of a big idea. Can you give me one?
Right.
Yeah.
The problem with that is they'll just use their own computing power to give you the existing idea. But whatever.
Oh no, I'm sure they.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if AI generated theme music for a podcast is any indication of how
Well, maybe
great.
Oh my gosh.
AI's learned since then. That was last year.
Maybe.
I mean, if that's any indication, we're doomed. Just
so
gonna
fun,
say
though.
it.
It's good content, regardless.
It had words and everything.
Exactly.
And the chorus. It
Wow,
was
that's
great.
awesome.
That was awful.
But,
All right. Well,
no.
thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Thank you. This
for
is
having
so
me.
amazing.
Yeah.
Katie
No.
Jacobs, thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much.
you.
All right.
All right. Good deal. All right.
Bye. Don't cry. It's over.
Oh, you did it. You made it to the very end of the show. You know what you can do to help us? What can they do to help us? They can tell their friends how awesome this show is.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
You know what else? And I don't know if people know this or don't know this, but like if you found us and you see us on socials somewhere, just hit repost or share it with your community.
Share, repost, follow. Isn't there a follow option?
Yeah,
of some
follow,
kind?
subscribe. We're not going to charge you anything.
No.
Just hit the subscribe button.
No,
It's
we
not gonna
just
hurt
need
you.
to create a community around entrepreneurism and how the real shit happens.
I like it. Well, because we're real. You said it in the intro.
Real.
We talk real. No, seriously, tell your friends. What a great show. Oh my gosh, these people are doing the best work ever. Yeah, right?
That's what you should say.
Yeah.
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 And just come back. Have fun with us. We love this.
We'll have someone, we'll interview someone cool next week too.
Someone completely different.
Yeah, from prison. Thanks.
We always have to have that.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.